All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC/Marvel update. And now I want you guys to know that tomorrow morning I am going to do a really large DC update. This is just something that kind of tied you over until then. And the reason I'm making this video is because The Marvels was released this weekend and is now the worst flop, the worst performing MCU film ever. And I'm going to talk about why this is happening. And this is going to be kind of an open letter to Hollywood, to Disney, to Marvel, to Warner Brothers, to DC Studios, and why they are failing and why they're going to continue to fail if they don't change course. Now, to give you an idea of how bad it was, The Marvels grossed $47 million over the weekend. And we don't have the final numbers yet. It could do even worse. And I'm guessing it might even go south of that by the time the numbers get released tomorrow or going into Tuesday. By comparison, The Flash was a massive bomb for DC, but it even managed to pull in $55 million in its opening weekend. Okay? And it had a little bit of legs because it was The Flash, really well-known character. These characters that they portrayed in The Marvels are not mainstream characters, okay? That is part of the problem, that they're telling stories that fans didn't ask for, okay? And it goes far beyond that. And I have my review for The Marvels up. I'll leave a link for it in the description of this video. It is spoiler-free. And if I'm going to talk about what I equated this movie to in my review. And this is where the problem comes in. So I equated it to, a boy who loves Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, He-Man, right? Got all his toys. Loves his toys. Plays with them. Loves that universe. Loves these characters. And then he gets called outside to do a chore for his parents. And when he comes back inside, he finds that his sister has hijacked his toys and is playing with them, having tea parties and having musical numbers, and she's totally hijacked the toys. That's exactly what has happened with Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. You have people playing with these characters and these franchises that don't really care about these characters and these franchises. They just want to play because they're jealous of their brother, of all the stuff that he has that they wish they could play with, but he doesn't want them touching them. I wonder why. Because they don't respect the properties. This is what's happened with Kathleen Kennedy with Star Wars. This is what happened with the whole DC and the debacle that's going on down there, and I don't think that's going to get better, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. And it's what's happened with the MCU. Every film that they make does worse and worse at the box office because, number one, people are just tired of generic superhero films. What made this movie bomb is, first and foremost, everything that they showed for this was comedic up until the final trailer where they did this voodoo magic and they brought in the original Iron Man, Captain America, to promote the film. To bring in that nostalgia to say, hey, this is tied to that stuff, come in and see it. And they weren't even part of the movie. They just used that as a ploy to get people excited to go to the theater, and it didn't work. People are not stupid. They're not making movies for the fans anymore. People are tired of these generic comedy superhero films. They just are. If you want to make a superhero film today or make a Star Wars film today, you're going to have to make it a little more sophisticated and make it something that the original people that got you there in the first place to go and see them. Because it's not the casual moviegoer that is making these films popular. It's the fans. It's the fans who buy the comic books. It's the fans who buy the cards, the apparel, the just everything. It's all the merchandise, the toys. That's how Star Wars got to be huge, was the toys. They knew back in the 80s how to get people excited for stuff. They've totally lost this. These companies are run by big investors, and they just don't have a clue as to what they're doing. They're check marking off diversity boxes. They're checking off. It's all about, I shouldn't just say diversity, it's identity politics. That's what's going on with these films. You saw it with Ahsoka. It was like almost an all-female cast. And the one main guy who was in there was a villain. This is the state of what's going on. There's no secret as to why these things are failing, but not enough people are coming out and talking about why and wanting a change. I wish I was a billionaire. I would go start a studio today, and I would take all of these franchises, and I'd get them back on track tomorrow. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going on. I can guarantee you the people that, one of the things I pointed out about the Marvels is that it was an all-female cast, and the cast was great. The cast was not the problem. They had the right people in the roles. That was great. It was the story, and there were 3 different females who wrote that movie. That was the sister of the people. I would equate them to the sister of the brother who loves those properties. And what did these sisters want to do? They wanted to play in the sandbox and didn't really care about the characters. They didn't really care about the universe. They just wanted to make their movie. Just because they wanted to make their movie. That is not going to resonate not just with the general audience, but the fans aren't going to care. Because do you think that brother cares about what that sister is doing? They're going to be interested in what that sister's doing with their musical numbers and their tea parties. No. They're not going to be interested. And I'm not saying that superheroes are just for boys. That's not the case. That is not the case today. But the females are not the majority. It's not the female group that are the majority of Star Wars fans. They're not the majority of the DC fans or the MCU fans. And I'm not trying to make this about identity politics. This is what the studios have done. I'm pointing out the issue. That's all it is. They could fix this tomorrow. Somebody send me some money. I'll start a GoFundMe. I'll start my own studio. If I had enough money to go in and buy all these IPs, I would do it and I'd fix it tomorrow. I'd make these the biggest set of movies on this planet again. But no, instead, what do we have? We have these investors backing these companies. Now let's talk a bit about where DC's headed. So I'm going to have a big update tomorrow. James Gunn was busy all over Twitter all over the weekend, showing all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to point out one thing that's very interesting about some of the release dates. So they announced the release date of the Batman 2, which, trust me, has been in production and has been planned for a while. It's coming out a whole year after, an entire year after Superman Legacy. And why is that? It's like that because James Gunn wants a spotlight. It's his sandbox. He's the little sister. He's the one who's coming in and wants to create his own crap. Doesn't care about the fans, doesn't care about these characters. Now, if by some chance the movie ends up being amazing, I'll admit it. I go into every single film with no expectations, okay? I go in as a blank slate, and I will watch these movies, but I will tell you what's going on with them. I will be 100% honest. If there's an agenda behind it or whatever's going, I went into this movie not expecting anything. I didn't want to see it, and I just went in to go see a movie. And came out, and I totally saw what the problem was. The Marvels was going to be a failure, and how they decided to release it the way it is mind-boggling. If you don't want to know any spoilers, turn away now, but there is a scene in the middle of this movie where there's a whole musical number, and Captain Marvel actually becomes like a Disney princess and has to sing this song. I mean, it's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. People talk about Thor: Love and Thunder being the worst Marvel film because it got goofy. Now, at least that movie was entertaining. The Marvels was not entertaining. The worst villain out of any of the MCU movies. I feel sorry for the cast. I feel sorry for the cast that was in that movie. And I will tell you that Captain Marvel was portrayed much better in that film than she was her own movie. I think they got the characters pretty good. Problem was you had the people who didn't care about the properties in charge. So these studios, they're still going after these agendas. And until that stops and they're done with the identity politics, these movies are going to suffer straight up. I believe that what's going on with DC is going to be another disaster. And after what happened this weekend with them canceling a movie that I would have gone to see, and I think a lot of people would have gone to see, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning, I don't think any movie's safe. And I guarantee you, if there's bad buzz because of a trailer when they release Superman Legacy and they start releasing footage, and if they're getting a feel that the audience is not into this, oh, you betcha, I think Zaslav will take a write-off. And I'm going to show you a quote by Gunn yesterday that he's throwing out smoke and mirrors to make it seem like his movie's safe, but I guarantee you it is not safe because Zaslav has the last laugh. He's already done it with Batgirl. He did it with this movie, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't know who's going to want to work with Warner Brothers at this stage. I don't know who would ever want to work for Warner Brothers at this stage because they clearly do not care about the creators. I don't know who would want to go work for Marvel Studios or for Star Wars, Disney in general. These are not safe properties. It's going to be a stain on people's careers. This is crazy. I just can't believe this. What do you guys think about the failure of the Marvels over the weekend? What do you guys think the issue is? Some people liked it. I could tell you, they were talking about all of a sudden there was a resurrection of positive scores on Rotten Tomatoes. I got news for you guys on Rotten Tomatoes. You definitely can't trust the critics, and you certainly can't trust the audience anymore after the information that came out. I am surprised that Rotten Tomatoes even still exists because their main purpose has been tainted. You can't trust the reviews on there. It's just some crazy stuff. Anyway, guys, there's a quick Sunday update. I'll be back tomorrow with a really big DC update and talk about all the craziness that happened over the weekend. That could be a lengthy video. That's going to be some crazy stuff. But, yeah, it's been an interesting weekend. I've just been soaking it all in, seeing what people are saying online, and I couldn't help but do this video as to why the Marvels failed and why these films are going to continue to fail going forward unless somebody who cares gets in there and takes control of stuff. All right, so there's my update for the day. I do appreciate the support. We will see you tomorrow.